I'm back with step 6, painting the cast of the Green Sunfish Replica. I'm Mr. R, and this is the Rondinelli project. Now, whether I'm painting on canvas, paper, or a fish replica with a paintbrush or an airbrush, it's all the same to me. But for some, not everyone, this might be a stress point. There is a learning curve here. I get it, but relax. Today I'm not teaching you how to paint, I'm showing you my process so you can watch and learn. But sooner or later, you're gonna have to dive in and paint. Let's get started. This is my vise. This is what I use to hold my replica while I paint. And the reason I like it is I can move that fish in any position that I need to. It's got a locking nut. You can move it, you can put it anywhere. It's got a vacuum suction cup on the bottom that locks it in place. So it's really nice. And the second thing that I always do is reference my source. I always take a picture so that I have accurate color and detail. Now, this particular fish from the body of water that I caught it from was a very dark species. They all are. You know, there are different color patterns all over the United States, but in Pennsylvania, in the body of water in northwestern Pennsylvania, this is what this particular green sunfish looked like. And the first thing I do is I lay in the dark colors from top to bottom, and I always work from dark to light. And I'm layering in the bottom section here of the colors, giving it that dark look. And then I start tipping the scales, adding this iridescent turquoise blue. And later in the video, I'm going to show you the paints that I actually used for this. Now, this is a tedious process. And when you're tipping the scales, you have to hit each scale that shows reflection color one at a time. And it's not impossible. It gets tedious. So sometimes you have to walk away from this. You do it for, 10 or 15 minutes, and then you have to take a little break. But because if you don't, you start to get sloppy. And if you start to get sloppy, then what's the point? So now I'm adding a top layer here around the head where it tends to be a greenish blue. And like I said in the intro, I'm not really going to teach you, how I mix my colors here. It would just be too involved. But everything can be mixed out of your primary colors. And I'm looking at the pattern on the face, this turquoise blue that you see in a lot of pumpkin seeds, but it's also in the green sunfish. And I'm just following the pattern just to replicate it the best I can. There's no right or wrong here. You just follow your source. That's why taking photographs is so important when you catch a fish that you plan on replicating. Now, one thing you don't want to do is start adding detail before your undercoats are done. You want to make sure that undercoat color is correct. And I'm painting the ear flap here, and this is a distinguishing mark on this particular species of fish. And it's on a lot of bluegills and sunfish, and it's called the ear flap. So I took a little break from painting scales, and now I'm back at tipping the scales again. And then you have some better concentration when you do that. Something else I want to mention, you'll notice that I use a piece of paper. And I do that because sometimes the airbrush misbehaves, you don't have your paint mixed exactly right, or you'll get a little bit of splatter out in front. And that just will drive you crazy, because if it gets on the fish, then you have to remove it, and sometimes it removes the paint underneath. So I use that paper to capture any of that splatter when you first start, and then I move the paper away and I know my flow is going good. I really recommend that. And I have a term for that. When you apply the air first and then pull your handle back to start the paint flow, I call that spitting. The airbrush is spitting, and when it does that, it's a disastrous result. And what I'm doing now is adding the tip color to the dorsal fin, the caudal fin, and the anal fin. And this is species specific. They have these really bright orange tips to them, and then at the very end of the fins are super, super bright white. It's pretty stunning when you see them. They're unique coloration. Here are the colors I used to paint this replica. I prefer to use acrylic paints when airbrushing, but here is the beauty to this step. If you don't like what you've done, or you make a mistake, just wash it off immediately with warm water, a toothbrush, and some Dawn dish soap, and start over. And obviously I used time lapse and sped this up, but here's the left side of the fish completed. These are my opaque colors. In the middle here I have my transparents, and on the end I have my iridescent and pearlized. Now you have to understand that every fish is different, and so your palette's going to be different depending on what species you're trying to replicate. And that just takes some time to learn. And what you're seeing here is the right side of the fish. I didn't really necessarily have to show this to you because it's the exact same thing as the opposite side that I did. But I don't just paint one side of the fish like a lot of taxidermists do, because they put it on a board and they figure no one's going to see it. But a lot of my work is three-dimensional. They're standalone, pedestal type work, and I want to make sure that no matter what angle the fish is being viewed, that everything is done to the best of my ability anyway. And of course, time lapse makes things look fast and simple and easy, but I didn't record every hour. I'm assuming this probably took me about 6 hours to actually do. So, when it's sped up. And I haven't attached the pectoral fins or put the gills in or put on the pelvic fins either. And that's in the next step. I'm really not sure if people realize just how much work is required to do a replica. Because it is, when you break it down, and I'm making film like this in video and trying to, demonstrate what I do visually, that's when it really hits me of just how many steps there are and how much work has to go into one of these to make it believable and do a good job. It's a wonder we do this at all. I mean, it's actually insanity when you think about it. And when I decide to make one of these how-to videos and show you, for people that are interested that want to learn how to do this, it's kind of like, I hope it turns out, because if it doesn't, then you look like an ass. You did all this work for nothing, so it's kind of like a crapshoot. But it appears as though things are shaping up okay. But then again, anything can happen, and we're not across the finish line yet. And I'm detailing the fins, doing some touch-up work there. There's a lot to go yet. They're never finished, but that's just the life of being an artist. Whether it's on canvas or a replica, they're never finished. You can overwork them as well. And if you're new to this, you're getting a well-rounded picture of how things progress and how this is actually done. That's my process, right or wrong. That's how I paint replicas. To be totally honest, every replica is different, so there is no real formula. I learn by doing and commit it to memory. In the next video, Lesson 7, I will demonstrate how I cast, attach, and paint the fins. As I mentioned in a prior video, I inadvertently forgot to remove the gills to be cast. So as a bonus, I will also be attempting to create those gills, paint and insert them for more realism. Hey, thanks for watching. I'm Mr. R, and this is the Rondinelli Project. Go practice. Until next time, class dismissed.